That first year, there were points where I started applying for proper jobs again because things just got so bad. I didn't really know what we wanted to do as a business. I went out there as a consultant, but I didn't have the experience really to say I was a consultant. But I had a good support network around me, and people just said, what are you doing? Just give it some time. And eventually work started to come in. We kind of changed the model. Instead of being a consultant, I asked, can you run our social media for us? Or can you build a website for us? So that's when we started to be more marketing doers.
We're back with another episode of Founder Diaries, a Rec Talk podcast. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma. My guest today is a former chair of recruitment marketing of APSCO. He's a former investor in AoRMA. He's a current investor and marketing advisor to Candidly. He's one of the co-founding members and head of media comms and poppadoms at the Recruitment Curry Club. He is a co-founder and chairman of the Association of Recruitment Marketing Agencies. He's a strategic advisor for Candidate Hub, and he's also the managing director of ThinkinCircles. I present to you James Whitelock. James, cheers for you're a friend of the show, you're a friend of mine. I appreciate you making the journey again today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Reading all that out, I just wonder where I've got the time to do any of it, to be honest.
Is it. Yeah, that's quite the resume.
Yeah, I mean, it's only grown, I think, over the last kind of couple of years.
Yeah.
It all the kind of advisory work and the investor stuff, I think, again, not being particularly, I don't want to be too arrogant, but I guess you get into middle age.
No, this is Founder Diaries. This is exactly where you get to be arrogant.
You get into middle age and you probably have a little bit more kind of extra cash and
and experience and learning, like lessons and learns that you can now support people with.
Yeah. So I mean, with the investment stuff, which I think I'm getting more known for, especially in recruitment tech, is that didn't happen overnight, right? You know, I wanted to know that space a lot better. I got to know it. I made a few tiny little investments. I got to my first one was with Candidate ID and Adam Gordon, but I got to know Adam. And then just kind of got to know that space a bit more, got a bit more kind of invested in that space. And I only invest in recruitment tech and HR tech, and that's because that's all I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've got one or two outside of that, but the ones that I like to get more involved with are in that space, because from a ThinkinCircles perspective, they're also kind of potentially clients, and some of them are clients. But also you just kind of...
Yeah, you've got an additional kind of service offerings and value to add rather than just cash, right? Which is, I think, a lot where those who fundraise get it wrong is they are often just looking for the cash, where
they're also looking for names as well at the time, right? And so I definitely get that a lot now, is that business kind of know that I've invested in other businesses that have exited or been pretty successful. And so, I do get a lot of kind of just stuff out of the blue, or businesses that I might have had some kind of just, they do maybe want you on the cap table because you've kind of got that kind of reputation now, which is, I suppose,
flattering. Are you part of a consortium or angel investment group? Or is
no, not yet. That might kind of come in time. But I've got a few other angel investors that I kind of follow around, the likes of kind of Kalpesh Bakshi and other people like that, who have been there, done that. They know that space just like I do. And they're a good kind of guide as well. So I think if you get a few of us all thinking that that's probably a business that we want to be involved with, then that's more of that. I feel more kind of, there's a bit more guarantee, and I feel more secure. Then obviously the whole thing with investing is you never invest more than you can afford to lose. That's the whole kind of. But I don't know if that's actually necessarily true these days. But if there's a few of us who are kind of say, this is someone we should be looking at. Also, we get the businesses we have invested in. A lot of the time, they kind of come back to us. So the guys that kind of hire are really good at this, and it's like they're now slap bang in that kind of space as well. And they say, look, these guys over here are looking for a bit of investment, so you might kind of follow them, because again, trust their kind of judgment, because they've been through it, they've exited. Obviously, they kind of sold to the Access Group. So that having that little kind of like support network of people in and around that space. Also, you just get to know some really cool businesses and stuff that's up and coming.
You feel like you're more on the pulse with kind of what's happening next.
And also it's a really good way to kind of like check governance and compliance, and kind of, not put your money where to the kind of one-man businesses who thought, right, I've got an idea, I'm going to create something on this platform, and then I'm going to go to market asking for something. And it's like, you can kind of avoid that if you've kind of got that network around you of those kinds of businesses as well, and people. Nice.
ThinkinCircles, you're about to celebrate your 13th year in business.
We're 12 and a half at the minute, so 13 at the start of next year, which makes us sound really old, which makes me sound really old. I mean, that's one heck of a journey as well. You know, I mean, that's where I spend the majority of my time. I suppose 80% of my time goes into ThinkinCircles, and you know, the story there is that it was just me originally. I came out the back of working at the Empresaria Group. And had some support from the ex-CEO there, Miles Hunt, who actually helped me negotiate the first contract for ThinkinCircles, which was back with the Empresaria Group, which is to support them.
Very nice. Okay,
which is brilliant. So that kind of kept us going and got us up and running. But I guess maybe like a lot of kind of founders in their first few years, I mean, it was difficult, right? I mean, that first year there were points where I was like, I started applying for proper jobs again because just things just got so bad and things weren't really going as well as and again, it was a situation I didn't really know what we wanted to do as a business. I went out there as a consultant, but I didn't have the experience really to say I was a consultant, you know. And
what drove the decision to set up? Did you always want to set up your own business? Was this a kind of redundancy thing that you thought, well, okay?
No, it was. I'd had I'd had ThinkinCircles.com for about 2 years before I'd even started the business, so I knew that's what it was going to be called. I knew that was the direction we were going to go, and there was always. I always thought that I probably knew enough, and I probably had some kind of experience, and I knew enough people in the space that it was worth taking a risk. And I suppose I'd come out the back of kind of finished at Empresaria, and I'd done okay, so I felt that I felt safe, or that I could kind of do this. I think maybe unlike a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm not a natural risk taker, so I needed a bit of kind of, you know, some security there. Problem was that I just was a bit naive, and that security disappeared quite quickly, and hence why I was kind of having to look for work. But I had a good support network around me, and you know, and just like most people just said, "What are you doing? Just give it some time and get on with it." And eventually, it started to kind of work started to come in. We kind of changed the model because it was, instead of being a consultant, I then kind of got asked, well, can you run our social media for us, or can you build a website for us? So that's when kind of Richard in my team, who's been with me since then, has kind of came on board, and that's when we started to be more kind of doers, marketing doers,
delivery.
Yeah,
do you think that was a decision that was kind of almost organically came out of the fact that it's supply and demand, right? And if the demand right now is for delivery, then that's perhaps what we need to be doing.
Yeah, and on the fact that I couldn't sell the consultancy piece. I think I just didn't have the credibility, and I probably didn't have that kind of level of, again, kind of arrogance to live that kind of that space to be a consultant. And so it was driven by people saying, actually, what we don't need any kind of strategic help, but what we do need someone is to do the day-to-day running of our social media channels. And remember, 13 years ago or so, that's when the social media really kind of blew up. So that's when that's when everybody wanted to be on Facebook. Everybody was just getting a head around what was going on LinkedIn, and there was the likes of kind of Instagram just coming in and all those kinds of things. So we kind of rode that wave, and we pretty much were just known for doing social media for many years. That was kind of where it sat, and it was I'm not saying easy sell, but the businesses that got it, and we were able to kind of sell that and kind of maintain the business. For quite a few years, and you know, as I said, that's how we got known for.
And then, at what point did you then sort of evolve even further?
So the real kind of evolution actually was in the fairly kind of recent past, which was through COVID, and that's when all marketing seemed to just go online, and we were able to ride that wave, and so many businesses just kind of like, we have to do this online, but we don't know how to.
Right.
And our business just exploded at that point. And those few years during COVID and just post-COVID, you know, there was 8 of us in the team. We were kind of we're a bit smaller now just because things have settled down and we've kind of have a better idea. But that was a thing where I grew the team out. I found the right people to be in the team. You know, again, hopefully my guys won't mention this, but we're slightly more mature and senior in ThinkinCircles, and that was the thing that kind of led. It was I got this team of people who have been there, done it. They've been kind of marketing managers or maybe even more senior. they're all happy to work from home, all happy to some of them were doing a bit freelance, and some of that and just able to build up this kind of team around me. And then that's kind of where it kind of went from being just social media more through to being much more consultative, being more strategic, and still doing delivery, but even delivery has kind of changed over that time, more kind of research, thought leadership, chunkier bits of work around that now, as opposed to we still do the social media, but it's more selective. You know what I mean? It's part and parcel of a larger project as opposed to simply just selling social media management.
Well, what do you think drove that kind of directional shift? Then, like, into, you know, is it that you're adapting the business to supply and demand and market like dictation, or are you kind of predicting these trends ahead of time, going, right, we need to position ourselves to be more this way because actually this is where I see things moving?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a particularly good crystal ball, but I think that was part of that was definitely seeing, right, the future of recruitment marketing isn't going to go backwards now, right, at that point. And definitely since COVID, you know, more and more, you know, the majority of businesses at that point were recruitment agencies, and you know, the amount of recruitment agencies now that understand a bit more about marketing. You know, we've been through the personal branding kind of movement, and even smaller businesses having their own marketing resource internally. So definitely there was that shift. I think, and that shift was to do much more kind of understanding what online can do, not just social and just kind of sticking out a job online, but you know, like the kind of stuff that you're doing with your kind of channels, that podcasting became a thing, understanding how to become, you know, to manage that attention economy, right? How to be part of that, how to earn your kind of right, how to build trust, how to become a thought leader. All of that kind of stuff falls into recruitment marketing now. And it's, you say those terms to a lot of businesses, they understand exactly what you're kind of talking about. Whereas probably before that, it was a slightly different
it was almost a nice to have, would you say?
Exactly. Yeah. Though the businesses that did it and got it did very well, but now it's actually a bit more kind of democratized and accessible to everybody. So I think that was the shift, and I understood that it wasn't going to go backwards, only going to go forwards. So the question was where do we sit as a business within that, and carving out our kind of niche as being, you know, one kind of recruitment marketing and working with agencies kind of specialist, but also being much more to kind of sit at very senior management level, at board level, C-suite level, you know, founder level, have those conversations, and then deploy that as well, as opposed to just being the kind of cog in that machine. We're now the kind of we're managing the engine, as it were, and you know, that has just kind of continued, and hopefully that's what kind of people kind of see us for kind of now, and that's where we've tried to kind of carve our.
What does your crystal ball say about the next sort of 5 years within kind of recruitment marketing, with, you know, the AI world that we're moving into, automation being front of mind for most businesses, a lot more focus and a lot more attention, certainly from businesses, is on kind of how do we do something with this? Yeah. Similar to back in 2008 when people were like, oh, this social media thing might be something we could use to sell.
So, I mean, you can't get away from AI, right? There's no two ways about it. And it has kind of like democratized that lower levels of kind of what marketing people would do, from content creation, copywriting, image creation, those kinds of stuff. But there's still a need for someone to understand what you need to do with all of that, right? Yeah. You know, just kind of creating something in AI and stick it online, it's just not going to cut it. You still need some strategic understanding. You still need to understand how to build a campaign out of that, how to build kind of content strategies, how to build content calendars, and how all that fits into where the business is going to go. And this is the thing I always talk to the team about is, you know, that's really what marketing is meant to be driving. Where is this business that we're working with want to be 5, 10, how many years? If it's a business that is looking to exit, whether they're in rec tech, whether they're in agency, it's our job to help them get there, right? Through whatever. And now we're not going to we're not nothing to do with M&A, but through marketing, we can definitely position them so they look saleable, so they want to sell, they look interesting to those kinds of
Yeah.
businesses as well as doing all the day-to-day stuff of bringing in candidates and finding clients. But there's that kind
And
of
they're
thing.
future-proofed, right? They've embraced
Yeah.
technology,
Yeah.
you know, in whatever direction it's moving,
Yeah.
and have integrated that as part of their solution.
Yeah, and completely agree. And so I think AI is that thing that's gonna kind of still democratize some of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always a need for people to manage it, right? You just kind of, maybe kind of when I speak to young marketeers and young designers, it's like, get your head around what AI can do and where does you sit in that
Yeah.
space, right? What's your differentiator? Understand that it's going to kind of probably kind of remove some kind of jobs from the marketing roles, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to kind of completely obliterate them. There is still going to be a need for, and also there possibly could be a bit of a bit of swing away from AI and people wanting actual more kind of proper curated written kind of copy.
Yeah.
There might be some of that, and we do see some of that sometimes. That people just don't want it. It's still quite easy to tell kind of AI generated content out there. Also, AI generated content is also being flagged by a lot of the channels out there. So there's still always going to be a place. But as I said, I think where we've kind of carved ourselves out is just above all that, right? We're quite kind of, we'll tell our clients that we do kind of use AI for ideation and kind of like research and all that kind of stuff. And we might even use it to kind of kickstart kind of copywriting, but it's not the final kind of thing.
No.
And I think understanding I'm old enough now to have seen job boards come along, social media come along. It's never got rid of all of the things that are out there.
No.
And I don't think AI is going to do, AI is just as a co-pilot, as an efficiency saver, all that kind of stuff is going to be there. I think from a marketeer, I wouldn't be kind of overly worried. But I think you just need to be aware. You need to have your finger on the pulse with all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think there's an element of kind of, would you kick off if somebody said, "Oh well, I've Googled this particular thing that you want me to write an article about, and then I've gone onto Microsoft Word and I've gone into their templates, and there's 3 templates here that I want to use one of." No, AI is just basically one module or kind of one interface that you use to do basically that, right?
Yeah.
Go and do all the research more than what I'm going to, and a lot faster than what I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then provide me some templates and get me started.
Yeah.
After that, I guess that's what, as a business owner, you would want your suppliers and your marketing kind of outsourced service to be, okay, cool, right? Don't just give me what that spat out, because I could do that myself.
Yeah. Also, AI is not going to turn up to events and do networking for you.
True.
Right, absolutely. It's not going to turn up and do, and there is definitely a movement to that kind of like that, back to that kind of face-to-face kind of stuff. And we've got a lot of our clients who want us to man booths and stands and turn up to things and just be representative.
Yeah.
Especially the businesses who maybe don't have some kind of representation in the UK. We end up being there. So AI can't do all that kind of stuff as well.
No.
And then. But it
frees you guys up to do all of that stuff. Right?
Exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. It still can't, this as well as I do, it's not going to do great. You want to have a proper face on a video for that kind of stuff, or it can't do a podcast, that kind of stuff. So there's an authenticity that AI lacks that really good recruitment marketeers, that's their kind of cachet. That's their economy, right? That's what they can, and so that kind of stuff isn't going anywhere. And I think that's really where I think we have definitely tried to kind of carve out our space, and that would be the response I would give to any client who comes to us to say, look, I can just do this on AI. In all honesty, if a potential client comes to us and said to us, I can do all this on AI, I'd probably say, go ahead and try. I'll talk to you in 6 months' time. But I think that's what we've kind of tried to kind of create that niche, over the last kind of 5 or so years, since we've repositioned the business slightly.
Interesting. Talk to me about ARMA, the Association of Recruitment Marketing Agencies. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, ARMA. It's not AoRMA, as some people think. So this was an idea that I first talked to one of the other founders, Chris Cranshaw, and we were a bit kind of despondent where recruitment marketing kind of sat in the space, and we wanted really to raise everyone's game and kind of give it that seat at the table, which I know isn't a great kind of phrase, but that recruitment marketing should have. And so we decided to talk to some of the kind of other recruit marketing agencies out there and our peers and just say, look, should we kind of come together, be adults about this in a non-competitive kind of style way, build this association that is there for other recruitment marketeers, be they freelance, be they agencies, be they just starting out. Don't tend to really kind of have anyone that's kind of from recruitment marketers in-house, because it's really just for those kind of those services and suppliers, and say, look, how can we all work together to make sure we bring the level up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're not sitting there bad mouthing each other. We're not there to price fix or anything like that. But you know what I mean? How can we make sure that people take this seriously as a function within the recruitment space? And that was the really kind of the fundamental idea behind it. And so there's me, Chris Cranshaw, there is Robert Woodford, Christina at Green Umbrella, Hayden who does all the kind of podcasts and cool stuff there, and then we've got another little kind of team of kind of members as well who are some are suppliers, some have touch points in recruitment marketing, and you know what I mean, it's it's really there just to try and kind of raise that bar. Have we done it yet? I don't know. It's just kind of early days, you know what I mean, we've only been going under a year with this kind of this venture really. But yeah, in time, hopefully we can kind of make people just more aware of it, what good looks like, what bad looks like, those kinds of things. I think that's what the aim is in time.
I like that. Love that. Recruitment Curry Club.
Yeah, right. I mean,
talk to me about that.
Well, you know all about it. I mean, I'm sure everyone on the podcast have heard about that on numerous occasions. Yeah, it was a crazy one, right? I was I remember it. It was a Friday afternoon. I got a message from Barry Cullen. Said, I've just spoken to do you know Bobby Banerjee? I was like, yeah, I know Bobby. Yeah, we are spoken to him. He's been on the podcast. He goes, yeah, we've got this idea about this kind of curry. Maybe going out for a curry with a few other people. Do you want to help us kind of get it up and running? I was like, yeah, right. He goes, and within 5 minutes, he goes, Barry comes back and goes, I've just got all the domains bought. I'm like, okay, right. So you're kind of really going headlong into this.
So this is turning into something.
Yeah, this is turning into something straight away.
This isn't. Yeah, you sold this to me as just a bunch of people having a curry.
Right, exactly.
And we have a domain already.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, like Barry, I was like, yeah, I can be busy sometimes. I'm not sure how much time I can actually generally put into this, but it sounds like a great idea. Nearly a year on, obviously, very soon after I came on board, you came on board as well.
Yeah.
And nearly a year on, it is kind of grown into this monster, this unstoppable monster now that is across multiple continents. We have multiple kind of clubs a week, it feels like, at the minute.
It was like 15 events in September alone.
Yeah.
All over the world.
Insane. Yeah. We've been able to kind of give our donations to start giving donations to charity. We've got our great ambassadors who now kind of actually do a lot of the kind of hard work on the day when we don't, because obviously it's beyond us to be in all these places. And we've got a massive membership. We've got, I don't know how many thousands on LinkedIn. We've got these very vibrant and really engaged WhatsApp groups. My part in it, I think, was pretty light, to be honest. I think I supported in getting the brand up and running and just kind of managing some of that kind of stuff in the background, and just chip in occasionally when I think someone's doing, maybe something isn't going in the right direction. But I think we're all a bit like that. But yeah, I mean, it's great to be just kind of part of this thing, and I think it's going to continue growing. I don't know how we're going to necessarily manage it once it kind of when it gets really big. It is, but it's interesting because from a marketing perspective, a lot that building communities is a real kind of thing in marketing now. Yeah. And this is a way to prove that it can be done, but you have to just kind of come at it from that angle, right? The whole point of the Curry Club is that no sales chat.
Yeah.
Now, whether that actually happens, but that's a thing. People it's a comfortable space for people to be in. It's a safe space for people just to kind of talk about what's going on in their business, or what's going on in life. It doesn't have to be that, right? People just kind of open up over a curry, Britain's favourite meal, basically, and talk about a few things. And I think that was the thing that I think brings people back. Right, it's unlike all the other networking events out there. Yeah. You're not being sold to. You don't have to sit through hours of PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah.
You don't have to have some prick in front of you talking at you for half an hour about stuff. It's literally, you just turn up, you engage, have a chat with people you probably never met before, one or two you probably have met before, and then have a nice meal. Know that it's actually going to a good cause, to charity as well, and then sign up for the next one in a month or so's time.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's a good for us, from a ThinkinCircles perspective. Chris on my team does a lot of the kind of like just the kind of some of the day-to-day running of that as well. And actually, it's quite a good kind of case study for us on kind of building that kind of brand out. So it is slightly kind of, it's not completely altruistic in that sense, but as I said, it's just it's got a life of its own, right? I think you probably agree, right?
Totally. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's sort of a blend of there's obviously a level of commerciality there for people like me, people like you, who kind of, we understand marketing enough to know that this will get our name, our brand, our face out there. So, and that in itself will drive further, for me, things like viewership and interest and sponsors and all the rest of it. But then also at the same time, knowing that you're doing something good in an industry that's otherwise known for doing pretty shitty things. Yeah, it's quite nice to be involved in, like, we're on the good side of this. You know what I mean? And it's surprising how many people are willing to be on the good side, right? Yeah, we've had our we've had people turn up that have tried to sell and and all that sort of stuff, and they no longer attend those events because they soon realise that it's not going to happen. But it's
a really good thing about all this kind of playing nice with others as well, right? Because we there's a lot of work that goes on with other networks who you could say were potential competitors. The likes of the team, the likes of TRN, etc. Right? And actually, they've seen the value in what we do, and vice versa. And we've had several kind of partnerships, and so it just proves that you don't have to be in recruitment to be an arsehole, basically. Which I think is a bit of the.
I think wider than that, it proves that the sort of community will drive the direction of what you're trying to do. Right? If you're building a business that is aimed at serving a community, be it marketing into recruitment, be it podcasting, whatever it is, you've got to let your community dictate which direction you take your business and what model works best, right? And in that case, sometimes that does mean collaborating with people that would otherwise be competitors. ARMA is an example of that. Recruitment Curry Club is an example of that. The number of people who have made solid business relationships off the back of being introduced to each other at the Curry Club and then have gone on to do some cool things is unbelievable. I think that in an industry that's always predominantly been focused on sales, we've kind of demonstrated multiple times over now that you don't need to sell to make money. I agree.
And the thing I like about the Curry Club, and I've always had a bit of a beef about this, and this is where maybe people aren't going to necessarily agree with me, is a lot of networks out there, and it's not just in recruitment, but they're not very democratic in the fact that there's costs for members, there's costs for suppliers, there's all these different kind of models, and tend to be, and as a service supplier into the space, tend to be that we get charged more than others.
You guys make the events happen,
right? And the nice thing about the Curry Club and the ARMA, to a certain, ARMA's completely free if you want to be a member. The thing about the Curry Club is it's a flat fee. You turn up. It doesn't matter if you what background you're from.
It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. It doesn't matter if the reality is everybody pays the same. Right?
And the examples you just said about the business being made, we're not looking to have a cut of that or anything like that, right? It doesn't. That's not what it's about. No. But for everyone who's a member, there's no reason why they can't have as many kind of connections and make more money from it than as much as they want.
What you get out of it is exactly what you're going to put into
it. Right? Exactly. And
whereas you're right, a lot of events and a lot of expos and stuff that happen in business in general, right? The more you pay, the more you get, right? So you're paying to be headline sponsor. Well, you're going to get an attendees list. Yeah, you're just paying to exhibit. You're not going to get an attendees list.
Yeah, there is a lot of that.
That level of kind of it's not even meritocracy, is it? It's just pay to play.
Yeah, and And then that's just business, though. I think there's a lot of networks out there,
but I think there's a better way to do it.
I agree.
We've certainly proven that isn't the only method that needs to be deployed. To make an event happen. Right?
I agree.
We've put on events via Recruitment Curry Club that have had 45 to 50 people attend.
Yeah.
And that's we haven't had to pay somebody charge somebody to sponsor it so that we can have a budget to market it. We've done that through organic social media.
And I completely agree. And it just shows you that there isn't that one way of doing it, right? And I've always had a bit of a bugbear.
I've got my poll is currently sat at 70 people saying yes to a Christmas curry club.
Oh, even right, exactly.
So
curry turkey or something like that. That's what we're gonna have to go for, right? Yeah. But all of that, I think it's one of those things that's got legs, and where it goes, I'm not sure. And I really I enjoy being part of it. I probably should do more within it. But like you said, the more you put in, the more you get out. We will get busy sometimes, but
listen, I read out all the things you're involved in. Right, there's only so much of your time you can.
Exactly. Things. But I'm glad to be part of it. I'm glad to be one of the kind of founders. I'm glad to have a tiny part in guiding its direction and its trajectory for however long it kind of exists. May it be kind of years and years, but who knows? But people might get fed up of curry at some point, right? You know what I mean? But it doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon.
6 billion people will probably.
Right, exactly.
There you go. Right. Question time.
Okay.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned as a founder and business owner?
That things will always get better. Things will always, no matter how shit it gets, things will always turn around and get better. And that, I think, comes from just being in the game for so long. Seeing downturns, seeing recessions, seeing things go up, things go down, that things always turn around. If you can stick it out, right, it will get better. Mm-hmm. And it's about having that kind of resilience, I think, which is a bit of a wanky word, which I know a lot of people use, and I don't mean resilience in the business sense means that things will kind of turn around. If I've been through it with the business. It's got big, it's got small, it's got somewhere in between, but there'll always be, it will always turn around. And if you can just kind of get yourself through it, and it's not necessarily about having a positive mental attitude. That's the thing. I think generally, business is swings and roundabouts, and if you can kind of, build up yourself so you are resilient for when those downturns come, you'll make it through the other side. So
what do you think contributes to sort of building that resilience? Like that's not something that you're born with, right?
Well, I think there's a mental attitude to it, right? What I mean? So not panicking, right? That's the one thing. Mm-hmm. Being financially kind of astute, I think helps, right? It's just not kind of overspending during the good times, mm-hmm. and realizing that there will be bad times coming up. As I said, probably unlike a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm not as much as a risk taker as some to a certain extent. But so it's there's a certain kind of mental resilience to it. You're going to get through this, and keeping that in the back of your head, no matter how long it kind of goes on for. You can't will it to get better, but it just will get better. And you're just knowing that and understanding that and realizing and just not panicking. Being financially sensible, which is really kind of like the dull aspect of it. But any business is just kind of like running continuously in debt, or doesn't have that little war chest that when and understanding how much they genuinely need to kind of get through the bad times, you're just doing yourself a disservice at that point. And you just don't want to be seen as one of those businesses that's boom and bust, right? We've seen those businesses that kind of like running up 50 man heads, and then gone down to 2, then go up to 20, then doing that kind of thing. There's ways you can kind of affect that. And maybe it's easy for me as a slightly smaller business, but
I think it like anything though, that it will impact your structural integrity, doesn't it? If you're going from boom bust, burst, eventually the foundations will crumble. As with anything, if you're doing that
exactly. And if you're a business that like we do a lot of work with now, who want to exit, I mean that just looks rubbish, right? No one wants to buy a business like that.
No,
right?
No. Yeah. Biggest success or win in business or life?
Business. We did once. This is a weird one because we were once able to turn down a deco
Able to.
Yeah, we were able to say no to it.
Don't need you.
Yeah,
Back off.
pretty much. Well, again, it comes from just kind of that confidence in the business. We were approached by them to do a big piece of work, and they wanted us to project manage the whole thing.
Right.
And I said no. I said we're not gonna be able to do that, simply because I know how you're going to work, and we'll probably end up on the scrap pile pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm willing to do this part of it, but I'm not willing to do that. So turning around and doing that was quite empowering. And actually, all my predictions in that came right. So the people who were project managing this project were out very quickly, and we actually managed to stay on for the entire project because we took off a smaller chunk of the pie. So yeah, outside of kind of business, again, I think just kind of managing to get to a point where just happy, stable, again, maybe that's part of my mental attitude. Like I was saying to you before, part of me sometimes I can dwell on things a bit too much, but actually I've got much more relaxed as I've got older, and I think most people know me as a pretty chilled out kind of guy, and that just comes from just, I can run the business, it can do its thing. I don't feel necessarily the pressure to do all that kind of thing. So I think there's a kind of a general win around that and success that I've kind of got to the business to where it can do that, and that just has knock-on effects into your kind of personal life. That it's not being kind of white privileged middle class. It's just generally sitting here being able to be. I'm quite content and happy, because I've got everything in place, and it does what it needs to do. But being through the miller a few times, but generally, just that I think is one of the kind of biggest successes. I can just sit here today and not worry too much, which I think is
love that. Love that. Biggest regret in life or business or both?
Biggest regret. So I've got a background in art, so that's my kind of background is in fine art. And when I was working for Empresaria, I was helping them with run their annual conference in Rome, and there was a chance. Well, I was on it. I was helping running it. I was doing some of the event stuff, and then most of the people they had a private viewing of the Sistine Chapel after hours.
Wow!
And I was dressed up, ready to go. You had to dress up, ready to go. And then someone said to me, "Look, can you help with this? Because we need to do it in the morning." I was like, "I could do that when I get back," but I was like, "But that would be pretty arsehole-ish. They need this thing doing." So I said, "Fine." I did that, and I never got to go to this private viewing of the Sistine Chapel, because I know if anyone's ever been there, it's usually absolutely packed, basically, and you can't. But yeah, so we had this, and so I missed that, which is a silly thing, but as a person who's kind of a lover of art, that always sticks with me. Is I never kind of got that. And
I mean, the lesson from that is like
always say yes and just
bugger
it, do it later.
Tomorrow's not promised, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're right. And I try not to have too many regrets. I think I've tried to kind of live my life a little bit like that, and not saying I go through life being an arsehole and not caring. It's more the fact that you can't affect what's gone in the past. So don't regret it too much. And it's not like this isn't the Marvel multiverse, right? There's not these branches that open out, right? There's not a version of me somewhere where he went to the Sistine Chapel. Well, maybe there is, but I can't worry about it. I can't worry about it.
String theory would suggest that there absolutely is.
You're right.
But equally, just exactly by contrast, there's also a version of you that never did a fine art degree and
all of that.
Yeah, went down the bodybuilding route instead.
Exactly. All of that. So there's all of that, and I can't sit there kind of contemplating, worry about all that kind of stuff.
I'd like to meet DJ James Whitelock.
Yeah, you might do. He technically exists in this universe, right? So there is a version of where that happens in this universe. So those, I suppose that's kind of a regret. It's not kind of ever.
No, I like it.
From a business point of view, there were probably people that within my business who I had to make redundant at a point, who I probably shouldn't have. You know what I mean? If anyone has ever done that, gone through making people have to make people redundant specifically, not necessarily fire people, because usually firing people because they're not very good at it. If you're making them redundant, it's because something's kind of gone wrong. But that's not a very pleasant process. If you've got any ounce of empathy within your body, having to make people redundant is horrible. Yeah. And there are times when I think back on when I had to do that, and it's like, could I have done more to keep them?
Is there anything?
Could I have done more? So that's probably the biggest business regrets. Yeah.
I love that. That's a good one. Really good one. Last question.
Yep.
This could be advice to young budding entrepreneurs out there listening, or advice to your younger self. But what advice have you got for somebody who's contemplating business ownership or is on the early steps and the early stages of business ownership?
Well, carry on with it. Just go for it. The risks completely are outweighed by the rewards from being your own boss and running your own business. Don't put too much pressure on yourself for it to don't compare yourself and try to compete with your peers too much, because, that's just a route to madness.
Mm-hmm.
It
truly is. The saying, comparisons of the thief of joy. It's so true, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It takes a while to get over it, right? I mean, we live in a very competitive industry within recruitment, and when you're running your own business, you just can't not compare yourself to some of your peers. But if you can get over that, you release so much kind of free, mental energy to concentrate on your own business. So if you can kind of get over that, I think that's the thing, is just not sit there comparing yourself to other businesses, and almost don't sit there saying, I want to be the next Zuckerberg or wherever else, right? Just do your thing, because actually the statistically likelihood of you actually being the next Zuckerberg is very, very, very low, right? Do what you do and do it the best you can. If you've got a great idea, run with it and see it through to its kind of complete kind of like nth degree before you say, like, that's it. I've done everything I can with it. Now there's no more I can do with it. So those are the kind of things. Just that, again, that's maybe a resilience thing, but yeah, just go for it, right? Don't, if you've got an idea, you want to run with it, just take that little risk. You won't regret it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? No one's judging you, right? No one's judging you.
No, it's a beautiful message, that. Mate, that wraps us up for this episode.
Thank you very much. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. This has been really good.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time and walking us through the journey and the life. Wish you nothing but success.
Thank you.
And, here's to another 13 years.
Oh, I don't know if
of something. Of something.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of these investments pays off,
Yeah, maybe next time we'll do it from my boat in the Caribbean or something like that.
Absolutely. Guys, that's all from us. New episodes drop every Wednesday and every Friday. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the cool shit that you guys do that allow me to do cool shit like this for a job. We'll see you again next time. Bye.